Welcome back. How about a career video? I want to talk about Reggie Lemelin. Why? Because why not? So Reggie Lemelin, a goaltender who played during an era that goaltenders had a rough time of it. He was 5'11". He wasn't as short as some of the other goaltenders in the National Hockey League. It took a while before he debuted in the NHL as well. So he was drafted number 125 overall by the Philadelphia Flyers in 1974. The problem he had was named Bernie Perrant. Really, the Flyers had good goaltending. The Flyers had good goaltending through the 80s as well. Lemelin was just a victim of the numbers game. They didn't really need his services, so he doesn't actually play a single game for the Flyers. And then he becomes a free agent. He signed August 17th, 1978 by the Atlanta Flames. So that's the reason for the Atlanta jersey. I think I need to do a Tom Lysiak video at some point. So with the Atlanta Flames, a team that is good enough to make the playoffs, not quite good enough to do much in the playoffs, and they're not far away from moving because nobody's in the building. He plays 18 games in 78-79, has a record of 8-8-1, 882 save percentage, and in the playoffs he made one appearance, didn't allow a goal, also didn't get a win or a loss, so he just has basically just a one small appearance in the playoffs there. 79-80, he doesn't play very much for Atlanta. So the final year in Atlanta, he doesn't see much in the way of ice time. 3 games, 2 losses, and a 797 save percentage. So coming out of Atlanta, he's being transferred to Calgary, but not really a lot is thought of it at the time. But in Calgary in 80-81, he plays 29 games, a record of 14-6-7. His 901 save percentage was third in the NHL that year. So definitely an attention grabber considering the 797 he put up the year before. In the playoffs, he goes 3-3 in 6 games with an 896 save percentage. Again, by 80 standards, very respectable numbers. 81-82, he plays more games, but his record gets a little bit worse. So 81-82, he plays 34 games, 10-15-6 record, 873 save percentage. He does not play in the playoffs. The problem he has is Pat Regan. Pat Regan is the playoff guy for Calgary. Definitely stole some of his thunder in 81. And so this is going to be a theme in his career too, is which goaltenders are ahead of him. So 82-83 plays 39 games for Calgary, 16-12-8 record, 889 save percentage, which is 9th overall in the NHL. In the playoffs, 7 games, a 3-3 record with an 853 save percentage. So rough save percentage in the playoffs, yes. Calgary, a team that's very good. The problem Calgary has is they're in the same division as the Oilers, and the Oilers are extremely good, and so yeah, it's gonna hurt their numbers. 83-84, he plays 51 games that year, so he's 6th overall in the NHL. A record of 21-12-9, 893 save percentage, which is 3rd in the NHL overall. So in the playoffs, he goes 4-4 in 8 games, an 889 save percentage. His numbers are good, and it reflects in the fact that he is 2nd in Vezina voting. That's as close as he gets to winning Vezina. He would not win the Vezina trophy. He was 8th in Hart voting too. So really, really a big year for Lemelin. Maybe his best year overall. I debated whether or not to wear Boston or Calgary, and so I decided I'll go with Atlanta. Because an argument can be made for whether his best years were in Boston or Calgary, so I said, I'll just go with Atlanta. 84-85, he plays 56 games, which is 5th overall in the NHL, and that is first and only 30-win season. That is 3rd in the NHL as well. 12 losses, 10 ties, 888 save percentage, which is 4th overall in the NHL. In the playoffs, a 1-3 record in 4 games with an 890 save percentage. He was 3rd in Vezina. So 84 and 85, he was a finalist for the Vezina Trophy both years. And then 85-86, he plays 60 games, so that'd be a career high. 3rd overall in the NHL, has 29 wins, also 3rd. 24 losses are 3rd as well, 4 ties, 872 save percentage. So he plays a lot of regular season games. His numbers drop quite a bit, though. And then in the playoffs, there's this guy, Vernon. What can you do? He only plays 3 games in the playoffs, had 1 loss, an 854 save percentage. Calgary went all the way to the Stanley Cup final that year with Vernon in net. And 3 years later, Vernon would be the starter to get Calgary their to-date only Stanley Cup win. So 86-87, what would be his final year in Calgary, now he's the backup. 33 games, 16-8-1 record, 885 save percentage. So his numbers get a little better, actually. In the playoffs, he only plays the 2 games, 1 loss there, 872 save percentage. So his time in Calgary's come to an end. Good news for him is Boston needs a goaltender. So August 13th of 1987, he signs as a free agent with the Boston Bruins. Now, me being kind of still looking for a team, I was a fan of Lemelin. I was. And so you have Lemelin, you have Moog, and I'm like, all right, cool. Both of them from the Alberta teams that I'd followed closely as a Canuck fan. I like both goaltenders. Didn't necessarily like the Flames and the Oilers by this point in time. And so now they're both in Boston. Starts making a fan of this guy with the Boston Bruins. But yeah, 87-88, his first year in Boston. He plays 49 games. He's the starter. 24 wins, which is 7th overall to go with 17 losses and 6 ties. 889 save percentage. In the playoffs, he takes Boston all the way to the Stanley Cup final. So this is the one year he does this himself. 17 games, an 11-6 record, an 895 save percentage. So things look good, right? But 88-89, he only plays 40 games. It's the net split between him and Moog. 80-game season, so split down the middle. 19-15-6 record. 887 save percentage in the playoffs. 4 games played, a record of 1-3. 857 save percentage. So Boston gets to the finals one year. They do not in 89. And in 89, he goes to the All-Star game. That's the only All-Star game he played in. And he was 7th in Vezina voting. So again, he's top 10 for the Vezina. So 89-90 rolls around. 43 games, 22 wins, which is 8th overall. 15 losses, 2 ties. His 892 save percentage is 9th. And this is really the height of Moog Lemelin as the goalie tandem. This was really, I think, their best year. And in the playoffs, the Bruins go all the way to the finals, so Lemelin plays 3 games because now he's behind Moog. 3 games, 1 loss, and a 772 save percentage. So his numbers aren't very good, but it's a small sample size. He does win the Jennings Trophy. So again, Moog and Lemelin, they win the Jennings that year. He's 4th in Vezina voting. But again, in the Stanley Cup final, it's Moog that plays against the Oilers that year. Didn't have any more good fortune against the Oilers than Lemelin did the year before. Now, 90-91, he plays 33 games. A record of 17-10-3, 868 save percentage. So his numbers diminishing. And you got to remember, he was drafted in 1974. So this is 17 years later. Two games in the playoffs. Doesn't allow a goal in his 2 appearances. 91-92. Only plays 8 games that year. That's it. A record of 5-1, 890 save percentage. In the playoffs, he plays 2 games again, 870 save percentage. So Boston is now moving in another direction. Boston's going to go through some things when it comes to goaltenders. Through the 90s, there were a lot of Boston goaltenders that came through. So 92-93, he only played 10 games that year. He did have a positive record of 5-4, but the 862 save percentage, well, this is when save percentages are getting better. So it really stands out when the save percentage is as low as 862. The Bruins would put him on waivers. He never appeared in the AHL, but the plan was to put him in the AHL. And really, it just that signaled what would be the end of his career. So he goes from the Jennings Trophy to being out of the league within 3 years. But again, he was an older goaltender. These things do happen. He ends up playing 506 games in his career. So at least he did play 500 games. 77th overall amongst goaltenders there. His 236 career wins is 73rd on the all-time list. 161 losses, 63 ties, 884 career save percentage in the playoffs, 59 games, a record of 23-25, and an 881 save percentage. So Rejean Lemelin was a guy who was on a team that went to the Stanley Cup final 3 times, but just the once. He was the one that actually led them there. But he was pretty good. And he was one of my favorite goaltenders growing up. Again, when he and Moog were together in Boston, that felt like it was the perfect tandem, and it stayed that way for 4 seasons, and then things started to change. Eventually, Moog found his way to Dallas, and John Casey became the guy in Boston, and that's for a whole other time. I don't think I've done a John Casey career video either. I should. That's an interesting one, too. But there you go. The career of Rejean Lemelin. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.